Good morning. Today I'd like to begin with a brief moment of silence to express our deepest condolences to the families and the friends of the 40 lives we have lost in our community to COVID-19. Thank you. We are heading into late April, and it has been another tough week for our city and for our residents. Additional cases and hospitalizations due to COVID-19 have been reported. More residents have been furloughed or laid off, and adjusting to wearing masks during our visits to grocery stores and other locations is difficult. I know we are all anxious to return to our usual ways of life. However, as our leading state health officials have shared, our efforts are working to flatten the curve. I continue to be in communication with local and regional elected officials as reopening plans develop, and we commit to advocating for a safe and strategic return to fewer restrictions. Right now, you continue to be safer at home. Please continue to follow the state's executive orders and CDC recommendations, and check in on one another. For today's briefing, I've asked a few of our city directors to join me to provide updates and reminders from several areas. As I have shared previously, our city departments have been working hard to ensure the work of the city continues. I am reminded daily that we have an extremely committed and flexible workforce. Thank you, City of Frederick employees. I would like now to invite Acting Police Chief Patrick Grossman to provide an update on the activities of the Frederick Police Department. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor O'Connor. In partnership with all city departments, the Frederick Police Department continues to ensure public safety as we confront the ongoing effects of COVID-19 in our communities. The department continues to emphasize proactive patrol strategies to include business liaison checks and walking patrols. Since the beginning of March, officers conducted more than 7,200 proactive patrol checks of businesses and neighborhoods. In addition, during the same time frame, department members responded to an additional 5,700 calls for service. Since the issuance of more restrictive executive orders to include business closures and stay-at-home orders, the department responded to approximately 60 reports of executive order violations. Only one instance required a warning to be issued, and officers found on all other occasions that persons involved were acting in accordance with CDC, state, and City of Frederick guidelines. Anyone observing anything they believe to be a violation of the state's executive orders may call the FPD non-emergency number at 301-600-2101. We ask all residents to obey the executive orders in place and continue to reduce exposure by practicing safe social distancing and staying at home. Since the outset of the pandemic, we have implemented several measures to protect both our workforce and community public health. The department's outreach unit continues to work cohesively with Frederick County Public School System by assisting with the dissemination of technology equipment for distance learning and over 5,000 meals. Internally, department members conduct daily health screens prior to their shifts, utilize protective equipment when required, and continue to liaison with our community partners to ensure we continue to provide an inclusive and stabilizing influence for all residents. Department members are working very closely with the Office of the Mayor and the Risk, Safety, and Compliance Department to ensure adequate supplies and materials are purchased to protect all city employees performing critical functions. And finally, on behalf of the men and women of the Frederick Police Department, I want to express our sincere appreciation for the thoughts, prayers, and food donations the department has received throughout the COVID-19 crisis. We are incredibly thankful for our community's thoughtful support, and we are honored to serve the citizens of Frederick during this most difficult time. I'd now like to invite Zach Kirshner, Director of the Department of Public Works, to the podium.
Thank you, Chief. As the Mayor has reiterated in his previous briefings, the The work of the city is continuing during this pandemic, and we are committed to protecting the life, health, and safety of our community. To support that commitment, our departments have been working diligently to design processes and service offerings in a way that is safe for employees and supportive to the needs of our residents. I would like to take a moment to reiterate the current operational adjustments in many of our public works departments. In sanitation, trash pickup, yard waste, and commercial recycling are operating on their normal schedules. Bulk trash pickup is suspended at this time. The city's free cycle program has been postponed until the next scheduled event, which will occur on October 17th, 2020. Additionally, as a reminder, we ask that you please only flush toilet paper down the toilet. Flushable wipes, paper towels, and other items should not be flushed, as they cause sewer backups, which could damage your home and impact your neighbors. Code enforcement inspectors continue to monitor city properties and are patrolling on an amended schedule. Inspectors are adhering to state executive orders, city policies, and CDC guidelines to ensure safety during their efforts. Even during this challenging time, it remains important for all city residents to maintain one's property in a customary way to avoid unintended, harmful situations. Thank you for your help in this area in development review and permitting. The city has debuted an online submittal portal for applications, plans, and payment of fees for work with the planning, engineering, and building departments. Through this service, the public may submit for the intake of building permit applications, site and subdivision plans, Historic Preservation Commission applications, Zoning Board of Appeals, archaeology, public improvement, grading plans, and many other applications. Thank you to those who have adapted with us. Please visit the building, planning, and engineering web pages to learn more about this new process. In parks and recreation, this pandemic has been a difficult adjustment for all. With springtime upon us, we know our community wants to enjoy our 70-plus parks in Frederick. Generally, parks remain open to the community. However, for your health and safety, all park, playgrounds, pavilions, basketball courts, tennis courts, inline rinks, and skate parks are closed. Individuals using the open sections of the parks should not gather in large groups and avoid close contact with anyone on paths or trails. We appreciate your efforts in this area. Lastly, I want to share my sincere thanks for our employees that have continued to work each day to ensure our city is served in critical ways. Some of our operations require 24-hour, 7-day-a-week attendance. And during this pandemic, that has continued without pause. Our shifts in the Department of Public Works start at all hours and each day. Our employees come in, go through a screening process to ensure they are healthy, and then get straight to work. Thank you to our DPW staff. I will now ask Richard Griffin, Director of Economic Development, to share his updates. Richard.
Thank you, Zach. As a community that treasures its businesses, talented workforce, and human connection, I've been very impressed by the innovation, resiliency, and adaptability of our local businesses. From making hand sanitizer and personal protection equipment to pivoting services to curbside pickup, delivery, and online sales, Frederick businesses are impressive, but we know you're hurting. COVID-19 has deeply impacted our employers and workforce and is likely to be a concern for months to come. The City of Frederick and the Department of Economic Development are committed to supporting our community during this time and into recovery. At the onset of this pandemic, we surveyed local business operators and found that almost immediately, the majority were seeing revenue drops of 50%, some as high as 90%. Additionally, over 70% of employers were already at the point of furloughing or laying off employees. In response to this survey, the Department of Economic Development launched a Small Business Resiliency Microgrant Program, activated by redeployed departmental funds and donations to the Community Foundation. The purpose of the $2,500 microgrants is to assist small businesses with less than 15 employees to manage the financial pressures of rent, mortgage, and utility costs during the COVID crisis. We have already awarded 36 microgrants to businesses in every sector of the city and expect to award another 8 to 10 in the next week or so. We also continue to share financial assistance information to our businesses to assist with state and federal loans and grants. Our local banks have done an amazing job helping business operators apply for and receive assistance. However, the need exceeds current resources. To gauge the impact to date, we initiated another survey last Friday. The survey remains open at businessinfrederick.com. As of yesterday at 5 p.m., we had received 79 responses that showed 9% of our businesses are fully open, 56% are open in a limited capacity, and 35% are closed temporarily. No respondents are reporting being closed permanently at this time. We hope that the last number stays as close to zero as possible, as we are certainly wanting all of our businesses to recover and reopen when it is safe to do so. It's also clear that the sheer demand is outpacing the financial capabilities of the assistance programs. 85% of the respondent companies reported having applied for some sort of financial assistance, with only 45% receiving assistance to date. Of those who applied to available programs, 32% received awards from the Federal Payroll Protection Program and 11% reported awards from the Maryland Commerce Programs. An amazing 58% of the respondents had not yet laid off full-time staff, but 98% have had to let go all or part of their part-time staff. Not counting sole proprietors, 86% anticipate long-term staffing reductions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We know these layoffs are hurting Frederick families. As the unemployment rates increase exponentially, it is critical that we take care of our out-of-work Frederick family, neighbors, and friends. For the Department of Economic Development, this means helping our employers get resources to get workers back on the payroll and guiding the unemployed to resources like those we recently highlighted on our Business in Frederick blog. The 5 key resources include timely application for the Maryland Unemployment Insurance Program, which allows immediate application online through the Maryland Department of Labor. Finding new employment through Frederick County Workforce Services, local job boards, Frederick News Post, and others. Improving skills while at home through at-home learning, training, and career development opportunities such as those through the Frederick County Public Library, Chamber of Commerce, Small Business Development Center, Frederick Community College, Hood College, Mount St. Mary's University, and Maryland Public Institutions of Higher Learning. Many of these entities are offering free trainings during this crisis. Deferring payment of costs like city bills, permits, licensures, and citations until 30 days after the state of emergency is lifted, as well as state and federal income tax payments which have been postponed until July 15th without penalties. And lastly, taking advantage of financial, food, and in-kind resources from the Frederick Community Action Agency and many other community organizations. As I close my remarks, let me also mention our economic development partners at the Chamber of Commerce, Tourism Council, Downtown Frederick Partnership, Golden Mile Alliance, Fort Detrick Alliance, East Frederick Rising, Tech Council of Maryland, and Tech Frederick, which through this pandemic are delivering amazing services while dealing with their own set of declining resources, layoffs, furloughs, and hardships. Our full support is with each of you as you continue to deal with the current health threats and future reopening of Frederick's incredible business community. Thank you. Now I'd like to invite Janet Jones, Acting Director of the Frederick Community Action Agency, to the podium.
Thank you, Richard. Over the last month, the Frederick Community Action Agency has been actively monitoring and responding to the impact of COVID-19 on the most vulnerable in our community. Along with fellow human service providers in Frederick, we have ensured all populations are cared for during this public health crisis. I want to take a moment to highlight some of the adjustments we have made. In the health center, which is operating daily from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., we are now offering telehealth appointments. Existing patients can schedule appointments by emailing telehealthfcaa@cityoffrederickmd.gov or by calling 301-600-1393 or 301-600-1506. If you are not a current patient of the Community Action Health Center and need health care services at this time, please complete an online intake form to see if you qualify for health care services at our health center. A staff member will contact you within 24 to 72 hours after the submission of your application. The form is available on the city's COVID-19 website. Food support is also a significant focus. The soup kitchen is operating in carry-out format and is open from 5:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. daily. We are serving 150 meals each evening and are looking for local restaurants and caterers to aid in the preparation of these prepackaged meals. If you can support this effort, please contact us. Additionally, we are now providing kits to our clients who come to the soup kitchen that include a mask, a thermometer, and hygiene products to ensure they have the resources to monitor and protect their health. The food bank is operating Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Additionally, in collaboration with the Salvation Army, FCAA mobilized its food bank to serve local seniors and households. Food bags are currently being delivered to Taney Village in Catoctin Manor and through food drops with the Asian American Center of Frederick and the Spanish-speaking community of Maryland. We have been contacted about providing food donations, and yes, we are in need. A no-contact donation drop-off is available at 14 East All Saints Street. We certainly appreciate any donations. However, please continue to reduce your exposure and only pick up items for donations during your routine trips to stores. Additional agency services, including transportation, housing and weatherization, and energy assistance, have been reduced to allow staff to work on emergency and urgent needs. However, we are available for any questions regarding these programs at 301-600-1506. In addition to our programs, as I mentioned, we are in contact with other human service providers in our community. Through our collaborations, the city has supported restrooms and wash stations at the Religious Coalition and Rescue Mission. We are providing meals to those who are staying in local motels instead of local shelters for safety. And we are working to provide additional supports to local organizations. Also, this week, we have been blessed to have the support of the Maryland National Guard. This is in addition to our phenomenal staff and have been steady and proactive during the crisis. Thank you to the National Guard, to the FCA staff, and to our residents and partners who have stepped up to ensure all populations in our community are supported. Serving our community during this crisis truly is a collaborative effort. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chief, Zach, Richard, and Janet for providing these comprehensive updates. As you have heard, our city departments are committed to the life, health, and safety of the Frederick community and our employees. The latest information on all city departments is available on our communications channels, including the city's COVID-19 website, cityoffrederickmd.gov/COVID-19, our social media channels, through city news alerts, and the iSpires app. We will continue to make adjustments to ensure you are supported during this time of need. Please continue to share your questions and concerns with our staff. We are here for you. In closing, for those in our community celebrating Ramadan, which begins this Friday, I wish you 4 weeks of blessings. This season of finding courage and triumph over adversity is ever important. Also, as today is Earth Day, I hope everyone will take additional action to preserve our environment. It is clear that our actions every day have impact for Frederick's future. Be safe, Frederick. We are still in this together. And we're happy to take any questions at this time.
I just wanted to start down the line of, every single department that you guys kind of brought out here. I guess first kind of starting with police, can you, I guess, kind of again reiterate just how many calls you guys have been getting as far as people who are gathering when they're not supposed to be, and has there been an uptick in any sort of calls related to domestic violence or child abuse or anything like that? I know that some agencies have been kind of warning that those types of situations may be on the rise during the stay-at-home order.
Okay, so for the first part of your question, you were inquiring about executive order violation as far as, the particular violation itself?
Yeah. I guess how many calls have you guys been getting on that? Have any of them been issued actual warnings or citations or anything like that?
Since the time that we've actually, the state and also the city implemented more restrictive executive orders, we received approximately 60 executive order violation calls for service. Throughout the 60, everybody was acting in accordance with CDC, state, and City of Frederick guidelines, with the exception of one occurrence where a verbal warning was issued and we obtained voluntary compliance. With regards to calls for service, they have steadily decreased in total number. However, if you look at the actual averages of our calls for service, we're averaging 55% of our calls for service are proactive in nature, with 45 being reactive. We have not seen an uptick or any sort of increase in particular calls for service such as domestic violence, child abuse, and things like that. Those numbers have remained fairly steady throughout the crisis, and actually we've had a slight numerical decrease since the more restrictive orders have been put in place.
And as far as economic development, I just kind of wanted to, I guess, kind of ask why the need for this second survey. Is this something that you guys kind of had in mind after that first survey? And I guess with this survey, what are you guys really trying to root out with this next set of questions, this next round of inquiring to local businesses?
Thank you. As I understand, you're asking why would we have undertaken a second survey and what do we plan to do with the results? We initiated the second survey to understand predominantly how many of our businesses are closed and how many are working at least in some capacity. And of those that are closed, are any of them already projecting that they're not going to reopen? So that's one of the critical things that we'd like to gauge. And so far, the answer to that from our businesses that responded to the survey was 0, that plan to close permanently. Now, part of that may be that they're still, assessing, and we'll have to see how long this event goes on. The other part of it is to understand which programs have really assisted the businesses the most, and where we're seeing challenges, and then we can feed that information to our partners at the state and through the Small Business Administration so that they're understanding how those programs are being rolled out here. And then finally, of course, is to support the work of our small banks and our regional banks, community banks, as they roll out a lot of these programs so that they can understand of the respondents that we're getting, what kind of demand remains out there in the community for these services.
And I know that the survey just rolled out on Friday, but already you guys have gotten some responses. From what you guys have deduced so far, what sort of factual information from that survey so far is most significant to you so far? Is it, I guess, the amount of businesses that are partially opened, or the amount that really kind of stress that they do need some sort of additional funding? What to you was kind of the most striking or significant from that survey so far?
Well, let me mention that the group that seems to have the most challenge are sole proprietorships. These are individuals that own their companies and maybe in some instances are the only employee. And as a result of that, they have not had access to some of the same programs that other types of business organizations have had access to. And so that particular group is really hurting considerably in terms of being able to actually access programs and assistance. So those sole proprietorships are hurting. One of the other things that I took in a very positive note was the comments and also the things that our businesses were doing to try to pivot. They were working on their online presence, their social media, trying to increase their online sales, moving merchandise, as you know, since they can't move it out the front door to retail customers, they can move it out the back door through shipping and through other means, deliveries and curbside pickup. They are also very interested in supporting their employees and want their employees to be able to return back to work as soon as possible. And it was just impressive how many of them have held on to their full-time employees in some capacity and are trying to make it work.
And I know that you guys already kind of hinted at 8 or 10 more micro grants. Is there any other sort of funding or grants or support that the Economic Development Department will be lending to these businesses?
We've exhausted the resources, the financial resources in our department, and obviously we continue to promote the other programs that are out there. And of course, we heard yesterday that it looks as though there's more federal funding coming for certain programs through the federal government, and so we'll be trying to work to help get our businesses toward those programs that do have additional funding. But additionally, just to compliment the mayor and the Board of Aldermen and the work that they've done to try and make Frederick as friendly as it can be to our residents and our businesses in terms of payment of fees and taxes and all the different things that they would normally, utility bills that they would normally have to be paying. The delay that they have to pay those is helpful.
Okay, I think I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're following the state and the federal guidance on seeing the trend of 2 weeks of declining cases and declining deaths. And those are the same triggers that the city of Frederick is going to be looking at as we're anxious to get our businesses back open and our residents back on the street. But we cannot do that until it is safe to do so. So we're watching the same numbers that everybody else is, and we're not quite at the peak yet. The data doesn't suggest we're there. But we're going to move as swiftly as we can once we know we've crossed over and have the opportunity to do what's necessary, but not anything that is going to endanger our residents. And so everything that we've been working on over the last now into the 6th week is geared towards the life, safety, and health of our residents first. And we'll have time in the future to focus on how we recover once we're back to normal. So thank you very much. Appreciate you joining us today.